Got big dreams, I'ma do big things. Yeah, you see me on the big screen looking so clean. I don't move slow, I move fast right past.
Yo, what's going on guys? SamuxPlays here, and today we are going to be doing another Viessa video. Now, I recently did a video on Viessa just the other day, showcasing a little bit of her buffs as well as her absolute zero build. So if you have not seen that yet and you're just trying to figure out some more stuff about Viessa, you can definitely go check that out. However, today I wanted to do something a little bit different. Now, I did mention a little bit of her buffs, such as Frost Roads is giving her a lot more movement speed now, and what this is going to do is make her just zoom through the dungeons, and she is definitely a contender with Bunny. Now, if you've watched me, you know that I am absolutely in love with Bunny and Freyna's playstyle. However, it can get stale a little bit sometimes when you're just using like two Descendants for those dungeons, right? I like having variety in my gameplay. If I spam Bunny or Freyna for a week or two, I get kind of bored, right? So after the Viessa buffs, it's brought her up a lot, and she is definitely, I would say, S++ tier for dungeons now. I wanted to do something a little bit different, and with the inversion reinforcements that just came out, we can now get insane movement speed on her, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. I'll go ahead and switch over here. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about it. So the build I'm still going to be using is the absolute zero build. A couple of people did ask me about the cold-bloodedness build, and I did want to clarify that in my video, the absolute zero build, I was just showcasing that. So just that specific mod for 400% invasions and bossing. Now, you definitely could still use cold-bloodedness for like bossing, but I wouldn't recommend using it in dungeons because you lose out on that 40% movement speed increase. So if I go here to cold-bloodedness, right, and I equip it, we no longer are getting that movement speed buff, which is essential in the dungeons because that is what is making her so good in the dungeons now. You might get a little bit more damage with cold-bloodedness for sure, but you are missing out on the movement speed increase. So for me personally, you could still use this for bossing if you wanted to. However, I am just going to still stick to absolute zero because it is just giving us so much utility in those dungeons, as well as a 100% crit rate, right? If you are wanting to just down the bosses in longer fights, then cold-bloodedness is probably better just because you're getting a lot more cast off, assuming you do not run out of mana. But in short-term fights, absolute zero is going to win out. But we're not really here today to talk about which is better, cold-bloodedness or absolute zero. What I wanted to show off was essentially a speed set. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you here in a minute how fast you're going to be able to run, but basically I found a reactor that had chill skill power and skill cooldown, which is just amazing, right? So I wanted to make her buff where we're getting 40% already. I wanted to make it even better. Like, how fast can we zoom through these dungeons? So what I came up with was equipping a handgun, because if you didn't know, the lighter the weapon, essentially, the faster you are going to run. If you have like a heavy equipped weapon, like, you know, Enduring Legacy or something of that nature, then you would be running a lot slower. Keep in mind, you can also use like Nezestras and Perforator. However, I found that the Final Masterpiece is just much better for mobbing because it just has AoE explosions built into it with the new buff that came out a while ago, right? So that's why I'm using this. And if we go into the training lab here, so let's say I had something like the Blue Beetle equipped, right? With my buff, you're still gonna go fast for sure. However, when you shoot, it's going to slow you down a lot, right? And this is going to change depending on what weapon you're holding. Now, obviously, if you were running cold-bloodedness with Blue Beetle, you're not really shooting anyways. You're just using it for that increase in crit rate, right? But let's assume that you are trying to shoot your gun. If I were to try and shoot with it, it slows me down. That's going to hold true to a lot of the guns in this game. So without any buffs on my 2, we are going to be sitting at 520 movement speed. This is without the buff. So let me go ahead and change to the pistol. We just went from 520 movement speed to 650, right? That's a pretty significant increase in movement speed. Now I am going to pop my 2. This is going to allow us to run at the most max speed possible since we're carrying such a light weapon. So now we're gonna be at 910, a huge increase, right? So we're gonna be running really fast. You don't really need to use Blue Beetle at all in this build because we're already gonna be hitting that 100% crit rate, so it's really not necessary. But you can actually push this even further. So if you didn't know, the new inversion reinforcement buffs came out, and what we're going to do is, on top of her movement speed buffs, on top of the increased movement speed from using a hand cannon weapon or a handgun weapon, whatever, you guys know what I'm talking about, we are now going to also slot into Adrenaline Rush. Let me go ahead and move my camera. So Adrenaline Rush reads, when defeating an enemy grants Adrenaline Rush, all movement speeds plus 16% for 10 seconds. This is going to make us run extremely fast. Now keep in mind this is only going to proc when you defeat an enemy, however in those 400% dungeons you're going to be one-shotting most everything anyways. It is only for 10 seconds and it does have a 20-second cooldown timer, so you're only going to have like 50% uptime on this thing. However, it does make a big difference. Let me go ahead and show you guys what I mean. So with the handgun and R2, as we already said, we're going to be at 910 movement speed. Let's go ahead and defeat an enemy. Now we are at 1014. You are going to be running extremely fast when this buff is up. So let's go ahead and summon a new one and we'll use the full 10-second duration. We'll pop R2, kill the enemy. And we're going to be running extremely fast now. It has a lot of movement speed. The cool thing also about handguns is when you shoot them, it doesn't really stop like your movement speed, right? Like I can just run and just keep shooting and doing whatever I want and it doesn't slow me down. So if you notice with the two popped here, this is what I mean. Movement speed while aiming, movement speed while firing, movement speed in general, right? It doesn't change. So this means we'll be able to zoom through the dungeons while we're shooting and AoEing everything and casting our abilities. Essentially, this is, you can think of this as like a speed set for Viessa. It's going to make her extremely fast. Now, the same thing you could apply to, let's say, Bunny or Freyna. All you have to do is go and spec into Inversion Reinforcement with Adrenaline Rush and carry a handgun. And they would also benefit from those movement speed buffs, right? But since Viessa just got buffed, I felt like it was relevant to make this a Viessa video. Alright, so now let's see the comparison between her and Bunny, right? So I'm going to be using the same thing, the final masterpiece, and then for my inversion reinforcement, I'm going to be using Adrenaline Rush. So without proccing Adrenaline Rush, we are going to be sitting at 1200 movement speed, right? So with the proc on Viessa from Adrenaline Rush, we were at 1248 sprint speed. So Bunny is going to be faster. However, one thing you'll notice is, unlike Viessa, Bunny is going to run slower when her movement speed while firing and movement speed while aiming. It is going to slow her down. So if I am in my sprint and I ADS, or if I shoot, it is going to slow me down, right? Viessa, it does not do that. Now, if I were to summon a minion, let's go ahead and spawn a Vulgus. We'll pop our sprint, kill it. And we are at a max 1300 sprint speed, right? So while Bunny is going to be a little bit faster, she does not benefit like Viessa does from ADS and or shooting your weapon. If you ever want to shoot on Bunny, Viessa is going to be faster. So let me go ahead and switch back to Viessa. We'll pop our 2 ability again and we'll look. It is not affected when I am firing and or aiming. Bunny is going to have 80 more movement speed in her sprint ability than Viessa, and once she procs her Adrenaline Rush, she's going to hit that max of 1300. However, Viessa is going to benefit because it does not slow us down. So Bunny, as I said, Bunny has 80% more movement speed in her sprint, which really isn't that much. And if you were proccing the Adrenaline Rush, Bunny is going to have 62 more movement speed, but she's not going to benefit from being able to ADS or shoot while running. So they're both really good, but Viessa is definitely up there as far as the fastest Descendant to be able to clear dungeons. She is like right behind Bunny. Now, granted, you can make the argument that with Bunny, you don't really have to shoot anything, right? Because her lightning emission is just killing everything anyways. So I wouldn't necessarily say that Viessa is better than Bunny, but I would say they're extremely close, like very, very close. If you need to use your weapon, then Viessa is just better. But at the end of the day, this isn't like I'm not trying to start like a debate over, oh, Bunny is better than Viessa, Viessa is better than Bunny. That's not like what I'm trying to do. I'm just merely stating that there are benefits to using both, and I think that as it stands right now, Bunny, of course, is still going to be the best for dungeons, just for the simple fact that Viessa has to kind of aim her abilities, whereas Bunny can just run through it, and then she's just going to kill everything with lightning emission. But Viessa is definitely the second best Descendant in the game, I would say, as far as dungeons, and she would actually be number one if you were in a position to where you had to use your gun while sprinting. But regardless, I thought it was pretty fun to look at the movement speed differences and things like that. Let's go ahead and move on. So I'll go ahead and queue up for a biolab because I still need to farm my heavy ion collectors, because honestly I've just been having too much fun on Viessa. I need to finish farming my Sharon, which I need like 50 more of these, so I am close, but I've just been having so much fun with Viessa that I kind of got sidetracked. I need to put my Sharon in the oven, but it doesn't really matter. Let's go ahead and see this in action. So this is going to be us running at max speed the entire time. There we go. I procced my buff. We are running extremely fast right now. I am a little squishy because I have the Slayer set on, and I catalyst her, so if you're wondering why my health is low, that's why. But she is now on the levels of Bunny and Freyna. And as I said, if you wanted to, you could also shoot and mix in some shots and stuff like that. Really, we're only using the pistol to push out a little bit more damage when we can't cast, so you're kind of just shooting in between your cooldowns. But basically the idea is you just want to keep uptime on your 2, and you'll be able to run through these dungeons extremely quick. Keep in mind with absolute zero, since you are sitting at 100% crit rate, you really don't even need to cast anything. You just have to kind of bring where your enemies are, like to create a trail. And they almost get one shot anyway, since you're just like doing so much damage on your ticks, like how you see right there. Of course you can cast if it's like a big group of enemies, right? But alright, and we'll go ahead and clear the boss, and then we'll see what our overall clear time is. Alright, and as you can see here, we cleared in 4 minutes and 28 seconds. Which honestly, as a solo biolabs, is very, very good. Now, I haven't really compared with Bunny to see how much faster she is. However, I would imagine that Bunny would still be faster with like the same setup. However, Viessa doesn't require constant mana management to keep her speed going, so that is an upside. It's a lot more easy to manage. Granted, you can build the like infinite sprint Bunny build. However, all I'm trying to say is Viessa is now going to be at least close and or on par with Bunny for clearing dungeons. So if you're just tired of playing Bunny, or you just need to take a break from her, go play Viessa. She's a lot of fun. I just wanted to go ahead and showcase her, and she is by far one of my favorite characters right now after the buffs. It is so nice to not just have to only use her for weapon proficiency farming with those void fragment reactors. So yeah, man, I'm having a lot of fun. Hopefully y'all will too. If you do want to use this build in dungeons, here is the build. In the other video, I did talk about some options, such as dropping focus on singular for dangerous ambush, or like group play bossing, as well as if you wanted to, you could also slot in like maximize range, just to give you double range mods. I personally don't use it just because I value the cooldown right here, but you absolutely could if you wanted to. For the external components, all you really need is some externals with like MP recovery in combat like this, and then ideally you would want MP recovery out of combat on this one. However, I don't have a Slayer piece that has MP recovery in combat, which is why I usually use this, like a double roll max HP. However, I was just using this to give me extra damage. The Slayer set is going to give you quite a bit of extra damage as long as you don't stack it with like power increase and dangerous ambush, because if you stack all of those things, you basically get diminishing returns, right? It like hits a peak. You're not going to see as big as a damage increase. However, if you only had like Slayer on, it is going to be quite a significant damage increase. However, you do take a hit to your survivability. So that is, I talked about this a little bit in my last video. It's kind of up to you and what your preference is. If you value like more damage over less survivability. However, at the end of the day, you know, just play how you want to play. It's not really that big of a deal. You can pretty much wipe all content. You don't have to have the Slayer set on if you value, you know, just more HP. As I said, for the Reactor, you could use like, me personally, I like cooldown in this build, as much cooldown as possible. So that's why I have a skill cooldown Reactor here, as well as I just got a really good roll on chill skill power, so I slotted my handgun weapon on this and never looked back. But another thing I was using, if you wanted to use it for like bossing, you know, additional skill attack versus Colossus as well as singular boost would be really good, because it changes all of her abilities to singular. Again, cold-bloodedness is probably better for long-term boss fights as far as bossing, but you can still use Absolute Zero if you want to. I think it's better personally for those like really fast boss fights. Keep in mind you can throw in power increase, but only if you don't have Dangerous Ambush and Slayer on. If you try to stack all of those things, Focus on Chill is going to be better, and it also gives you skill cooldown. However, if you only have like one of those things equipped, then power increase would be better, right? Because it's like only modifier. But once you start stacking it, it loses value because we get skill power from this, right? So you get 65% from power increase. You get another 26% here, as well as if you're using Dangerous Ambush in group play, the difference isn't going to be as big. So Focus on Chill is going to be just the best overall. And it gives you skill cooldown, so that's just like a massive bonus, right? But assuming that you did not want to use the Slayer set, you did not have this on, and you were not using Dangerous Ambush, then power increase would be more damage than Focus on Chill. However, let's just assume that you're going to be stacking skill power, right? Just in case you're trying to push your damage as far as possible. Anyways, guys, that's it. I hope you have a good one. I hope I was able to help you out. I've been having a lot of fun with Viessa. I will get my ultimate Sharon cooking like as soon as I can. I keep getting sidetracked, but I'll also do a build video on her. I pretty much already went over her build. I think I posted it in like the pinned comments, like pre-release of what she probably would be building. It's basically just going to be like crit mods and cooldown, but regardless, I'll still upload a video on it once I end up unlocking her and all that good stuff. But y'all have a good one. I'll see you on Albion, and I hope you guys have fun with this build. I'm loving running 400% in Vessel dungeons with Viessa. They're great. Anyways, y'all take care. Y'all have a good one. Peace.